This video is sponsored by KEH Camera. What's up? This is John from John Branch 4 Photography, and there's always been a very specific lens that I've wanted to try on my Fujifilm camera that no one really ever talks about. And KEH Camera was nice enough to send one my way, so today we're going to be trying out the Canon TS24 tilt shift lens. If you're not familiar with tilt shift lenses, they were originally made mainly for architecture, basically to keep your lines straight all the time in camera. So for example, if you were trying to take a shot of a building, right? And let's say the building is too tall for you to get in the frame, so naturally you're gonna aim your camera back and up. But by doing that, you're gonna make all the lines kind of lean back away from you. And especially in the days of film, you don't wanna crop your images that hard because you're gonna lose a lot of the framing. So what a tilt shift lens does is actually move the lens from where the mount is so you can keep the line straight, get the building in your picture, and not have to tilt up or down. Currently at this time, unfortunately, Fujifilm doesn't make any tilt shift lenses at all, and I know that's one of the biggest gripes that everyone always talks about, especially when they're using something like a GFX 100 or 100S. So for the longest time, I was curious why no one talked about just adapting one of these tilt shift lenses onto your Fujifilm camera, so I wanted to go ahead and try it out. One of the only downsides to using the tilt shift lens adapted to Fujifilm, which is why no one ever talks about it, is the fact that you have no aperture control. I didn't realize this before, but now I've had my question answered because I was always like, why is no one ever talk about using a tilt shift lens on a Fujifilm camera? But as portrait photographers, y'all already know we be shooting wide open all the time anyway, so it really didn't bother me. So if you're wondering why I'm even interested in tilt shift lenses, there was a movement for a while in wedding photography where photographers would use these for portraits instead of for architecture. And when using a tilt shift lens for portraits, you get some really cool bokeh effects. One of the first and easiest places to see this and what everyone notices is whenever someone takes a picture of like a city from high up, you get that whole miniature look. That's what a tilt shift lens can do to your focusing. It's hands down one of the coolest effects I've ever seen, and it's great that it's coming off the lens like that. I even sometime in some of my photos add a fake tilt shift look to them. You can see them here in these photos. Even some of my favorite photographers like Forged in the North shoot a lot of their photos on tilt shift lenses. I just absolutely love the look of their photos and how cool a tilt shift lens can look on portraits. So before you start adapting lenses to your camera, there is a couple of things you have to do. First, you have to turn on the option to be able to shoot without a lens on. So the reason we have to turn this feature on is to let your camera know that it should still fire the shutter even if it thinks it doesn't have a lens on it. Basically, when you're using an adapter, it sees this as having no lens on at all. But we still want to be able to take photos because we can still see through the lens that we're adapting to. If you don't turn this feature on, you won't be able to take photos at all when you're using adapted lenses. Next up, obviously, you need an adapter. I can't remember the name of mine or the brand. They're usually all over the place on Amazon, but it's not a special lens adapter at all. It's basically just X mount to the Canon EF mount. These adapters are simple. They don't do any autofocus. They're just plain old adapters. I'll link some down in the description below, but there's a whole bunch of them on Amazon. You can basically find one in like 10 minutes. And last but not least, turn on manual focus peaking. With peaking, what you're gonna get on your photos is a red line around anything that's actually in focus. You'll be able to see that through the viewfinder and on the back LCD screen. This makes it super easy to be able to manually focus. And again, with the lens that I'm using, I'm going to have to manually focus anything anyway. Once you have all that set up, you're ready to go out and shoot. So I'm about to head out and go to an actual session, put this lens to the test so y'all can see what kind of effects I get out of it. But before I do that, let's not forget to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, KEH Camera. KEH Camera, hands down, is one of the best places to buy new and used camera gear. As you can see, they loaned me this tilt shift lens and it came in basically new condition. I've also bought a Sigma lens from them as well, and that basically was new. This is all used stuff and it looks absolutely amazing. Not only can you buy new and used gear and even film gear, but you can sell your own gear as well. It's super easy to sell your own gear. You can either get online and get a quick quote, or you can call them up and be walked through the whole process. On top of buying and selling, they recently just updated their return policy to 21 days instead of 14 days. So this goes for new and used gear. So if you're looking to sell your gear like I am, I have some old Fujifilm stuff I need to get rid of, or you wanna buy some really good condition used stuff, definitely make sure to check out KEH Camera. I have a link down in the description below that you should definitely use, and you can get 5% off of your first purchase. So let's go ahead and get out and take some portraits with this tilt shift lens. All right, so now that you know how to adapt a lens to your Fujifilm camera and also manual focus, let's go ahead and get into a quick session. I got a model, he's gonna hang out, give me a subject, and let's see how this tilt shift looks on portraits. So Trent came out super last minute to model for me, so definitely make sure to go check him out on Instagram. He also is a photographer himself and shoots a lot of film, so definitely go show his Instagram some love. So with a tilt shift lens, one of the main things we're doing that's different than how it should be traditionally used is I'm using its tilt function to give me that crazy looking bokeh on the top and bottom of the photo. Keep in mind when you're shooting with a tilt shift lens in this way, focusing can be kind of hard because you're almost narrowing the focusing area. Another way to get this same result without having to go buy a tilt shift lens yourself is by doing free lensing. I've always had a hard time doing free lensing, but it is an option of something else you can do if you're not looking to buy a tilt shift lens yourself. And as you can see in my viewfinder, old habits die hard. There's no reason for me to move the focus box because I'm manually focusing. I'm just so used to doing it that I'm moving it still and wasting my own time. So these are probably some of my favorite shots from the whole session. I really have an obsession with tall grass. One thing with a tilt shift lens is that you can actually change if it's vertical or horizontal where it's tilting and shifting. It's really kind of cool. You should definitely play with one. They feel like a transformer, how they can move and everything. But you can see on these photos that the tilt shift look is not as drastic. It's definitely there since I'm shooting on a 24, which is basically a 35 equivalent on a Fujifilm camera, but it's not as drastic because I have the bokeh blur happening on the vertical rather than on the horizontal. So for this session, since I was a little low-key and just using one camera, you see I'm using the Holdfast Gear Solo strap. This is honestly one of my favorite straps to use, especially if I'm just using one camera. You can notice I have a pouch on it as well that has an additional lens on it if I need to swap my lenses. Also, since I'm using the Fujifilm X-T4 on this session, you can tell my shutter speed is pretty low, but again, its IBIS is really amazing and it can keep up with that. When you adapt a lens to your camera, sometimes the light that comes through is just not the same, and I believe this lens is a 3.5 aperture. So again, I'm down at ISO 200 and my shutter speed has to be pretty low to be able to get enough light in to take photos. And since we're talking about exposure and settings, don't forget to check out my video on the exposure triangle to learn more about how to get a correct exposure. So what did you all think of the tilt shift lens in action? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know if you would be interested in using a tilt shift on your portraits. I hope it was helpful learning how to shoot in manual and adapt lenses onto your Fujifilm cameras. And don't forget to hit that like if you enjoyed this video. And again, check out KEH Camera, get your new and used gear, especially if you're starting out, or even just check out a tilt shift lens for yourself. And I will catch you all next time. All right, peace.